Welcome to another episode of the Rambuddha podcast. So, today's session is going to be about the cultivation of a profound peace that will unleash a very unique spiritual potential. See, I say unique because a lot of people don't access it. But a unique spiritual potential that will enhance the quality of your life. Now, what I want to talk about is something that I've experienced on my spiritual journey, and many others have as well. But a lot of people can't put it into words, and it's very difficult. And I will try to do that. The best way to understand this mystical dimension of life, which is simultaneous with your own potential of being awakened, which is also simultaneous with that supreme realization of I am that. And I am that is the title of Nisargadatta Maharaja's book. It's a concept, very profound concept that has been talked about by Ramana Maharishi, by a lot of gurus, right? And it's that beautiful threshold of freedom, natural inherent freedom being realized effortlessly, that leads to such a beautiful allowance and realization of the higher power that is present here with everybody in life. Okay? So the best way I can start to explain it is that consider somebody who is very obsessed and trapped even by material things, right? And this is a common theme and for a lot of spiritual speakers. They're like, don't be materialistic, don't be this and that. But again, see, what they don't realize is that their instructions will take you so far. And I try to really get this across with my own teaching style. Whereas what I'm telling you should not be glorified. I don't think anybody's teachings should be glorified, because then the mind ends up bound to bound to an object in the mind, and establishing a mental position. The ultimate truth is that you are not your mind. The mind is an aspect that you are possessing temporarily. Okay? And so the angles, I'm going to just call it the unique mystical dimension that I'm talking about, the I am that. And I'm going to try to reach to it, trying to kind of explain it from different perspectives, okay? So the first one is the person who's stuck in material things, okay? Let's say you begin choosing a material profession, okay? Let's say you just want to be an artist, a musician that just wants to talk about, people, women shaking their booty or whatever, right? Or just material shit, right? So when you get, you do that and you see results, and eventually it becomes your life. For example, you want to be a rapper, you want to be a pop star or whatever, right? So let's say you go into that for a long time, and eventually you're going to see that you have invited a strange prison around you that you're enjoying severely, and you're almost addicted. It ends up becoming your natural state. Now, for people who have had a spiritual calling, which is very mystical and unexplainable, they begin to notice that, okay, so I'm obsessing over material things way too much. I'm lost in it. And another example would be the person who just wants to make money. I've seen a lot of people like this. They focus on money. They become very rich, and then they try to focus on the dynamic of family, which again, they have difficulties with that. And they end up being that ultimate definition of a successful person, that social definition. And their life is good. They got the riches, they have the comfort, but they are starving. The ones who are lucky enough to be awakened and realize that they're starving. And what they're starving for is that spiritual dimension, that mystical dimension that I'm trying to explain. So, in comparison to the shallowness that can overtake you and make you feel empty, no matter how much you're gaining materially, that's one perspective to look at the value or the truth that is in this mystical dimension that I'm trying to explain, the I am that dimension. Now, another aspect is like a lot of people feel this I am that dimension by let's say their lives get too crowded. So there are people, they might not be rich or materialistic, but they've got a lot of scenarios going on in their life. They've been very active. They've triggered a lot of drama in their life. And, that itself, they are getting a spiritual growth out of that. See, I firmly believe that if you were born into this life, every second that you're breathing, you're growing, right, spiritually. But then there are those who try to really focus on the spiritual dimensions of life, and their growth becomes catalyzed because they're not standing in their own way. Okay? So, anyways, now let's go back to this from the angle of the person, the drama maker, or the person who's got so much things going on that, they're running shit in life. They're making things happen and it's nice. But again, they feel like they're missing something. They got, let's say they're CEO of a company. They got everything. Everything's awesome, and they're dealing with a lot of activities. And it's respectable, from the social perspective. It's all good. Also, they are spiritually growing from that. But it's almost as if they're all both of these examples, they're lurking around a diamond. A diamond that they know they need to find in their life, okay? And that is that I am that dimension, okay? So what they feel is that, and the moment they become close to that diamond, that I am that mystical dimension of I am that, is when they realize, it's like so much stuff is happening, and, they've accomplished all the things that their mind has craved, for the most part. And they just kind of see things and they're like, oh my God, it's so chaotic right now, my situation. Even though I'm handling it, it's still, there's a chaos here. And the more I detach myself, I feel free. Okay, and these are for the people who've taken extreme responsibility for a lot of stuff and are caught up in the drama of that. Okay? Now understand that responsibility itself is a valuable component in spiritual growth. Okay? And so the third example would be the person who's depressed and has taken no responsibility for anything in their life. And for them, actually, they need to elevate to the point where they start taking responsibility for the major dynamics in their life, like their family and stuff, if those are obligations that, they've been bestowed upon by life or they've created and they got to handle. Okay? So, anyways, the person who's depressed, who just wants life to end, who is engaged in escapism maneuvers, even subconsciously, such as smoking cigarettes, or something, whatever, doing drugs, always numbing themselves, trying to escape from life and confronting responsibility in life, okay? I believe a lot of people do drugs because they don't want to feel the pressure of being responsible for things. And, it's not as much fun as being numb. You see, a statue, consider a workplace like a business. In a business, the statue in the lobby doesn't have much responsibility, and the CEO has to do a lot of shit. So, and it's almost like a silly example, but it gets the point across that people, a lot of people just want to, just escape from facing life and having obligations, and those who are really in themselves prioritizing the escaping, the numbness, the being unborn, because they can't confront being born. These people, they become very depressed, and for them, they're still being, again, you got to understand that the burden that they're feeling, like the others, is again a component, a creative mechanism of the mind, from the mind. You see? So for them, they again are lurking around that diamond, the I am that diamond, because they cannot confront and accept life. And it's similar with those other previous two examples because they feel the lack, the starvation they feel, spiritual starvation they feel is due to not allowing or confronting something in their life or a dimension of their life. And it's similar with the very depressed and numb person too. And for them, when they come out of their depression, by engaging in life, they feel closer, And so that's important too. Because the I am that dimension is that which you are, that mystical potential that is here, that essence, that is buried and burdened and blindfolded by you due to a lot of mental activities or mental directions that you have gone. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you gotta, understand the source, your own source, and that is the diamond that you are seeking. Okay? So, my podcast, the Rambuddha podcast, a lot of people trip out. They're like, why are you calling it Rambuddha? It's gonna be difficult for you. People are gonna think you're crazy or whatever. And I'll tell you why. Because Ram, which stands for Lord Rama, and Buddha, which is Gautama Buddha, right? These two are two of the very impressive beings that I personally, in my growth, resonated with their teachings, and I have had so much beautiful evolution. And also, you got to understand the Ram part of this podcast name is also a direct acknowledgement and a kind of smiling bow to Ramana Maharishi, who I think is one of the most enlightened and spiritual giants of this world, in this universe. And, so yeah, so that's why I call it that. And also, now let's talk about Lord Rama, the god that is worshipped. His life was very chaotic too, in the stories, but he kept his state of operation very stable and almost like enlightenedly stable. And again, that is a compliment on that mystical dimension. I am that which is you, of which you are blindfolding through severe mechanisms of ignorance, whether socially conditioned in you or whether just destined for you to adopt and transcend, right? Or you just mistakenly allowed. So to reach that dimension, it's see there are a lot of spiritual teachers far more capable than me. I got the calling that there is an audience and there are people who need to hear these things, and that I need to talk about it, right? And this was again from my own peace, my own spiritual liberation that I feel from that mystical I am, that dimension that I feel life has matured me enough to realize. And this is what I feel. I don't want people missing out on this because life is so can be tricky sometimes, right? You can get caught up in alleyways and routes that'll just have you circling in a maze, and you think you're reaching something and that's your purest destiny line until you suddenly realize, oh, what am I doing? Right? And this happened for me, and I was lucky enough to reach a level of spiritual understanding naturally by, I think it was due to the grace of that mystical dimension, the I am that potential, I am that essence, or that state that is beyond dreaming, sleeping, and the waking state, and which is God, which is grace. And so that's the beauty here, right? And I want you, and I guess maybe the purpose of these talks is to create that needed culture to allow people to realize on their own the I am that mystical dimension, or their own essence, the self, as Ramana Maharishi states, the self with a capital S, right? So this podcast is dedicated to that, and we're going to go over a lot of different teachings. So I'm going to be reading excerpts from different books, from different teachings, because I feel somebody needs to talk about it. The uniqueness of the podcast is due to the teachings and the segments that I believe that I need to be expressing in each podcast. Actually, I started these lectures before with a group of friends, but some issues happen with copyright on Facebook. I guess on our channel we posted one of our like moderators, they posted like videos of other people, and then they shut down the channel. But I'm starting it up again, and we're going to be focused on mostly posting videos that are of the podcast, the Ram Buddha series. And the goal is right now is I'm going to be giving lectures. I'm just going to be talking. I may interview a couple of guests, a couple of people who I think, who I find of value in regard this theme, okay, or this topic of discussion. And if you're listening, I appreciate that you've tuned into this podcast. I believe those who hear this were meant to hear it. And I hope that the Ram Buddha podcast, or the Ram Buddha Spirituality Network, has a benefit for you. Another thing that I want to talk about is that a lot of times, there's a very interesting example I give, right? So there was a situation in my life where there was an argument going on between a bunch of people, and there was this person in the argument, in this dilemma that we were having as a group, and he was very angry individual, right? And when they told me to kind of intervene into the issue, so this person is just like, he's holding his side of the argument. He's like, this is this and this is that, and everyone's like, yo, you're too angry, and it was almost as if nobody really valued his content, due to his way of expressing it. Okay? And so when I went in there, I just kind of, with my own intellect, logic, I just kind of analyzed the situation. And funny enough, this person who was yelling and just like being, a complete asshole to everybody, but what he was saying was the right thing. He was just communicating it like a dumbass. And so what he was like it was like as if the other people were all calm and zen, but they were saying 2 + 2 = 5, and this person who was angry or pissed off or just had an issue with communicating, he was saying 2 + 2 = 4. And when I went into a situation, I just kind of heard both sides and I analyzed it, and I said that this guy's communicating like an idiot, but the content is correct. And that's what I want you to pay attention to. So, whether it's me saying it, whether it's whoever is saying the content, the information that you're receiving, I want you to take out your emotions and the other person's emotions, and really, very in a raw way, just analyze the content you're receiving and see if it has value for you. Okay, it's like similarly to, let's say, a homeless guy came and told you 2 + 2 = 4, and then a CEO entrepreneur of like a Fortune 500 company said 2 + 2 = 5. If you listen to, if your intuition tells you, the homeless guy is right, but the CEO is saying 2 + 2 = 5, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to accept what he says because he's got it going on, and you believe in 2 + 2 = 5, and you go against your own intuition, your own intellect, then unfortunately you're an idiot. You're like being brainwashed by the circumstance around the content. And, to embark on the spiritual path, it does get lonely because you are dealing with concepts, ideas, your own logic, the polishing of your own intellect. So make sure that whatever is said to you, any advice that is given to you or anything that is being spoken about on these spiritual concepts, they resonate with you. Okay, that's why I say, if what I'm talking about in this podcast, you don't believe it, or it doesn't connect with you, turn it off, right? But if it does, then, just follow that intellectual stream and polish your own intellect, right? This channel, even if it gets monetized, if it ever does, it's all as a service. And I will be, a service to the world, that I am trying to render. Because that is what I realize is also one of the beautiful ways towards the full awakening of that mystical dimension, the I am that. Okay, so this is what it is right now. And welcome to the Ram Buddha podcast. I hope, you enjoy this, and all the best to you. Namaste.